If you are curious on how you can make Reels work for your business, then you're going to love today's guest, Alisha Marfatia. You will know her as the social impact, and she is like a Reels queen. I'm going to read her bio in a second. You're going to be so impressed. But in essence, she's going to help us to break down heaps of stuff about Reels. So from their purpose to why on earth you should be spending time on them, her unique strategy for making sure that Reels actually make you money and grow your business. We also talk about how much space we have in our phones for Reels, and you're going to learn that Alisha actually has 5 phones. Unintentionally, accidentally, but I don't think she's complaining about it. Anyway, you are going to love today's episode. If you haven't met Alisha before, she is the Reels queen. Instagram actually officially announced her as the first Reels pro. She is a visionary strategist who's transforming female entrepreneurs into leaders with her unique blend of cinematic storytelling and digital mastery. She is a filmmaker and a coach, and she's built 2 7-figure businesses on Instagram, proving her techniques in propelling brands to amplify their audience, enhance her online presence, and to boost profits. Beyond coaching, Alicia's insights resonate globally through her podcast, highlighting her collaboration with Instagram and Meta as a recognized content creation expert. Her approach transcends conventional mentoring, advocating for joy in the entrepreneurial journey, merging strategy with creativity, and redefining success. As an in-demand speaker and mentor, Alisha empowers you to embrace a vibrant, wealth-creating future where business and creativity unite. So let's dive into our episode today with Alisha. All right. Welcome, Alisha, to the podcast. I am so thrilled to have you on. How you doing?
Oh, I'm excited. You've told me you've got some questions, and I'm like, well, okay, well, get ready because I'm not going to hold back. So this is going to be a juicy episode.
I'm very happy for that. And I cannot wait to dive in. But first, I need to ask you the question I ask all of my guests, and that is, what does an average day in your life and business look like? Like, what happens for you from the moment you get up to the moment you go to bed, including worky stuff, but the rest of life as well?
So this is interesting because I'm the type of person, I love structure, but I hate structure. Like I love having structure and a plan, but then I'm like, I love the freedom of flexibility. So every day, I know it sounds cliche, but every day is different.
Yeah.
And I'm very sort of like, yep, let's go do that. This feels fun. This feels good. Let's do this. But I wake up at a reasonable time. I like to wake up just before 7. I'm the sort of person I'm a carpe diem person, so I like waking up in my eyes early, but I also like going to bed late. And that doesn't
Gotcha.
really work when you want to like get the whole amount of hours of sleep. So I get up,
Function as a human.
yes, yeah, the basics. And so I get up and I like to do my exercise of sorts of whatever that is, maybe a YouTube little dance, maybe going and using I'm with ClassPass, which means I get to like as I travel around, I can use the gyms in the area, which works very well when you are traveling. And then breakfast, eggs for breakfast, get the protein in me. Iced coffee as a little reward for getting some big things done first in the day. And then yeah, really I just sort of flow into it. I've found my peak performance times during the day, and I've really identified that sort of 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. is sort of like not my time where I need to be brainstorming like a lot of things. I can't sit down and map out a whole masterclass or anything like that. That's sort of my time where if I'm feeling I can go and visit my niece. I can go and spend that time with my niece. I can go and visit my grandma. Like those sort of things, the reasons why we started a business to have our own flexibility,
Yeah.
that's my time of the day where I can do that if I need.
Yep. That's so great. Yeah, I hear you on the I'm not an early morning person, but I'm not a late night person either. I'm sort of somewhere in the middle. I'm like, I kind of want to
Yes.
stay up late because that's when I have to work because I've got a fam. And
Yes.
the mornings I'm like, I don't really like getting up before the sun. Like, why would we want to do that?
Yeah.
So somewhere in the middle. I love that. Thank you for sharing that insight. Um, okay. And so today, obviously, as a bit of a what people would call a Reels queen, I would like to pick your brain on said Reels queenage, on everything to do with Reels, because I know that for so many business owners, it is such a point of contention for them. They're like, they dread this idea. They're like, why do I have to make Reels? And I'm like, well, there's a lot of good reasons to making Reels. So let's kind of set the stage to kind of get people interested in and actually paying attention to the podcast. If like,
Yes.
what is the purpose of a Reel? Like, why and when should we be using it in our content strategy?
Yeah. So look, Reels is really, for a long period, it was hard to convince people to get onto Reels because they're like, this is a fad, this is going to go away. And the thing that I've said from the start, I've got a background in film and television, I've got a background in video marketing, like that is what I live and breathe. And it's not new. It's not
Mhm.
a fad. Reels is the name we put on it. TikTok is the name they put on it. YouTube Shorts is what they put on it. But at the end of the day, and even as you're listening to this podcast episode, a lot of the things we go through, the techniques behind it, the psychology behind it, you can apply it to all of these things because at the end of the day, it's really just video marketing. It's short form video ads. And so when it comes to getting onto Reels and why you need them, it's really such a powerful and easy way to fast track conversions,
Yeah.
fast track a result that
Yeah.
you want in your business. And as a business owner, it's really about like, do you want to be working doubly as hard to get the same result that you could from a much more efficient way of going about it?
Yeah.
And when it comes to reels, they reach more, they've got a longer lifespan, they have the power to convert because they make people feel a different way because people are seeing your reels, because people are able to read the text on your reels, because they hear as well. It's all those senses being immersed into what you're sharing. And you have a very easy way of influencing their emotions. And when you get people to feel, that's when people are going to take action. And sure, a carousel is great. It's got its place. Sure, a story is there. They're all different features. But reels are essentially little video marketing ads where you get to make people feel. And when people feel, they're much more likely to take action. So for me, it's just such a no-brainer. It's like if people talk about taking their business to the next level, if you're not prioritizing reels and you're on Instagram, there's your answer. This is your next level right here.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard people say that Reels have a bigger reach. Would you say it would have the biggest reach of all the different posting options?
Absolutely. Reels has its own tab. You go into the Explore tab and you can find reels, you can find carousels, you can find static posts. But reels themselves have their own tab where you literally just scroll through and it shares people who you most of the time aren't following. So to have its own tab of way of finding people, this is one of the reasons why it gets the biggest reach.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Okay. So, and I think it's good to remember too, like when people are, especially in those any stage of business, to be honest, you're always wanting to increase your reach. And they're like, oh, why can't I just reach more people? Are you doing those reels? Because they're such a great way to do that. 'Cause, yeah, so many people I get liking my reels aren't the people that are following me. And while it's a great technique to also, like, I'm also seeing your reels all the time and I'm following you. And so it's
Yes.
also great to build that relationship, but it's also great to just draw in those new eyeballs onto your business, I guess.
Absolutely. It's definitely visibility is a brilliant, brilliant way, a brilliant reason to get onto Reels.
Yeah.
Definitely a problem I have seen with a lot of business owners, though, is that they are only using it for visibility. They're sort of like,
Mm.
Reels aren't as powerful as carousels. Reels are, they're just sort of like to get people into my world. And I'm like, yeah, because you're just using them as Reels. Like you're just putting up, basic sort of text, or you're just using a generic B-roll or the 7-second reel strategy, like to get views. You're using Reels purely for visibility, purely for getting eyes into your world and using the other content to do the rest. And yes, you can do that. But again, this is where I'm talking about this efficiency, like better use of your time, more impact for less work. And that comes down to you don't necessarily need, like, I'm not saying throw out the other things. You can go onto my page and you'll see I post all the different features, right? They're all
Yeah.
there for a reason. But when you start using reels as they are intended for, right? Like for businesses, video marketing, not just a video post anything, blah, 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 for visibility. If you actually use them well, that is where you don't need to necessarily rely on the others and you can see the conversion directly from the reel.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so good. Okay. So like, do you have anything, I'm going to put you on the spot with this, any success stories of like just a reel that someone's done or if you've done, and it's just like, it's helped the business to grow, like inspire us.
Gotcha. Okay. Oh, there's lots that come to mind. I definitely think one that I want to share is a client of mine. And the reason why I want to share this is because if you are listening and if you are hesitating on reels because you've perhaps in your eyes missed the boat, missed the wagon. So this client of mine, she is a hypnotherapist and she has helped me a lot. She's actually my hypnotherapist. And when she learned what I was doing, she's like, okay, I need to learn. I need to pay you in return. And I was like, love it, the cycle of life. But she, despite helping me with my own confidence and things like that, she was deeply, deeply insecure about showing up on camera, which I know a lot of people can sort of connect to that. So and she hadn't really used Reels because of that reason as well. So what we did was we did a few things actually. There's a few reels, but the first reel that she posted, I'm trying to remember what was on it, what was specifically on it, but we showed a few different variations of how trauma can sort of expand when it's not being dealt with. And through that one reel, and she showed up in a way, I think it wasn't really her face, but she was sort of in it in a sense. But we paired it with some really like some music that sort of builds. So as the story sort of builds, so does the music. And so we're sort of using the text, and through that, she had people come out of the shadows.
Mm.
And they were like, okay, all right, I need to work on this. I've realized that my like the trauma that I've been sort of covering up and ignoring is only getting worse and worse. And so because they sort of with that reel, they sort of felt that like it's growing, it's getting bigger, it's getting more intense. They actually then were drive. They were then taking the
Driven.
next step. Thank you very much. To actually take action and do something about it. And so she sold 20 packages, right? 20 packages. Her packages were at the time $1,000. So she sold 20 packages that she can say. I was like, are you sure they're from Reels? And she's like, yes, I'll show you the DMs. Like we started the conversations from this. And
Yeah.
so that for me was like one of those moments where someone who had been resisting it, I didn't get her on there and was like, let's get you to dance. Because a lot of people see my stuff and they think I don't want to dance. And I'm like, okay, just because I dance,
Yeah.
because I can't really sit still. I'm a mover. So for me, it just comes naturally. But for a lot of people, that's not them. And so to be able to find a way that felt good to her, that got her a little bit outside her comfort zone, still got her message across, allowed people to feel, take action, and then see that result in her business was just one of those moments where it was like, this is freaking cool.
Yeah, that's incredible. It's so great that she could even like so specifically say this was absolutely from the reels. Like there's no
I
ifs, buts
love when
about it.
people do that because it's hard because I've done
Yeah.
many talks and things like that, and I remember actually a talk in Sydney, and I was at this conference, this expo, that's what it's called. It was an expo, and I had a male in the back row, and he sort of put up his hand, and he's just like he was asking about the conversion and like what do you need the reel to make in order blah blah blah. And
Mm.
this is where so many people sort of lose, especially marketers who've been in the marketing industry for a long time or business owners who've been in it for a long time. They're like, well, how do you track the ROI? How do you track how much it's actually making? And unless you use an ad or
Mm.
unless every conversion needs to DM you sort of first, or you've got, how did you find out about this? It is a little bit hard to find that. But when you are able to, and that is, as I said, when someone says, like, I found you through this reel or comments, I'm like, I need this, and then they buy, it is a bit hard to track. But the biggest thing is that at the end of the day, when you're able to really build your confidence in it, when you're able to start building the momentum, the results are just like, they're nonstop. It's like a snowball going down a hill. It's like,
Yeah.
it's going to get bigger and bigger.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. Okay. And so obviously a reel can be a reel or a reel can
Yep.
be a good reel. What makes a good reel? Like what are the key aspects? What are, I guess, the building blocks of a good reel?
Okay. So the first thing is, and the way I sort of like to break this down, and it's funny because it's changed It's changed, I think, a little bit since I sort of last went through Reels with you. Was so originally what I was teaching in my programs was first up, we need to hook people in, then convert, right? So it's about like I was always teaching scroll stopping reels and then reels that convert. And what I found was we had some students get insane results, insane results. And then we got some students that didn't necessarily get the same level or even much at all, right? And whilst there's always the case of people expecting results but not actually taking the action to get there was still some who were trying and just not saying anything.
Mm.
So what I did and what I've been doing really over sort of the past year is I've been refining. I'm like, right, a lot of this sort of created when Reels came out. Things have changed. So my approach, how I teach Reels needs to change as well. So I've created this sort of like 3-step framework that this is how I sort of look between that's just a reel using the feature for the sake of using the feature. And this is a reel that's actually going to make bank. So this is what I call the reels that bank framework. So step 1 is to captivate, to grab the attention. Okay. So that's similar to what I used to teach, captivate. Step 2 is convert. So using your reel to actually get someone to take the next step. So you might be thinking, okay, that's what what's the difference? What I found was a lot of people, they're like, I'm making reels that convert, or I want to learn how to make reels that convert. I need reels that convert for my business. Reels that convert isn't enough, because a reel that convert, any content that converts, it's essentially meaning someone has watched it and taken the next step. You've told them, what more reels like this? Follow for more, right? DM me, or you're telling them to do something. A lot of the time we've got call to actions, right? Where you're telling your audience what to do next. That's great. But if they do it, technically your reel has converted. So here's where the problem really lied on why some accounts were seeing massive results in sales and some weren't, was because converting reels aren't enough.
Mm.
You need to ensure that they position your offer. If you want your reels to sell, to land new clients, you need to ensure that they position your offer as the only step forward, like the only thing to do next. And so I'm not saying that all your reels need to be buy, lead to your offer, lead to your sale. But if making bank, making sales with your reels is a priority for you, then you need to ensure that you have that third step, which is what I sort of say, cash in. So you've got captivate, convert, cash in. So captivate, grab the attention, convert, build that feeling, build that like want for taking action, doing something from your reel, so they don't just go, okay, cool, that was nice, that was fun, that was cute, that was inspiring, next, right? We want them to take action, and then we need a specific sort of like an angle in a sense for the reel to ensure we actually do take action in the form of buying into your offer. So that's how I look at it as a business owner. If you're using reels, we want it to be helping your business. And so if you can follow sort of that will get you great results.
Yeah, amazing. And so, yeah, as long as we have, so I guess that first step is all about finding that attention, getting that
Yes.
someone to actually keep watching your reel, so you can then begin to whether
Yes.
it's teach or whether it's like just, I guess, yeah, show them why they need you, and then
Yes.
move on to that next step. Do you recommend? Is there a method, or should we be putting all of those steps in the actual reel? Should we be putting those in the caption? Doesn't really matter? Like what have you found works?
So I sort of break it down now. I have like it's funny. I have like many different types of reels, but if we're looking at how I structure my reels, there's sort of like two main structures. The reel will be a bit longer, and the goal from that reel will be to ensure that the reel itself gets them to take that next step or gets them to convert into the offer, right? Or join my email list or whatever it is.
Yeah.
The reels that are perhaps a little bit shorter. So we're sort of talking like under 25 seconds, under 20 seconds. Usually these reels, the goal for them is to get them into the caption. And then in the caption, we're, building this up a little bit more. We're explaining it a bit more. We're, expanding. We're giving context. We're overcoming objections. And the caption is then going to finish the work off. So I've sort of got like when I approach my reels now, if you're watching it, it's a bit longer, you'll find that it sort of does tackle these things, like gives the call to action on the reel. Whereas ones where it sort of might say, lead you to the caption, you can see the goal for those is to get them into the caption and then using the caption to get them to get the next step.
Yeah. Yeah. That totally makes sense. I love the idea of just the length of it. If you got a long time, put a lot of stuff in the reel. If you got a short time, put it in the caption.
Yes.
Not rocket science there, I guess.
Yeah, spot on. Spot on.
I feel like we make it so much harder than it needs to be.
100%.
Okay, so this question, I think I know your answer, but I'm interested to hear it. Like busy business owners like myself, I've got like 2 kids. I'm running my business in like on fumes at this point. Am I better off to do one incredible reel each week where I spend like an hour or 2 or whatever, however long it's going to take me to do a really good job of it, or do like 4 okay-ish reels? Like, do you think it's better to spend my time doing one good reel or just like get stuff out?
I definitely think if the getting stuff out reel, like if that option includes sort of like generic B-roll with just some text on it, or just to like quickly find some trends and then we'll redo these and those like that, absolutely let's do the quality over it, right? Because I think a lot of people do make it a lot harder when they're like, oh, well, one really good reel or 4 that are okay, right? And then they'll see reels that seem to go really well that they're like, that wasn't that great. And so, and this is where it is, right? It's like when I say one really good reel, it doesn't need to be all these transitions, the cinematic value, really high quality. It doesn't necessarily need that. The biggest thing for a good reel is that it gets people to move. Gets people to move. It gets people to want to take action after it. And so it doesn't necessarily need to have all the bells and whistles, the fancy things, and you're like, this is going to take forever. But I would just prioritize ensuring the reel is actually going to get them to want to take that next step, whatever it is that you want them to do next.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of, which I find the hardest thing, because usually that involves actually using your brain and thinking rather than just copying a thing or doing the thing.
Yes.
So where do you find, obviously, like not find, how do you, inspiration? Obviously we can get inspiration from scrolling, but then we're probably just going to be copying. So how do we get ideas?
Yeah. So look, I definitely with my clients, I'm like, okay, we're gonna like, how are you currently looking for ideas? And almost always it's like, all right, well, I scroll and I'll save things to a folder or whatever. This is the easiest way to become a sheep. Right? It's like the easiest way to get to the point where you're like, I can never think of something creative. And it's like, yeah, because you rely on scrolling and finding other people's reels and redoing your own version of theirs to create reels. So what I encourage is literally go back to who you're trying to help. And so for example, I introduced a few months ago a new offer where I sort of like, it's called a reel intensive. And I sit down with the client and at the end of it, they have 30 real ideas. And so with that, right, they come in, they're like a bit nervous because like, oh, I don't have much energy today. Like, I'm a bit nervous. I don't know. I'm not very creative. And I'm like, that's fine. We're going to have a conversation. And so in it, I'm just asking them questions about their dream client, about, what results they've seen. And from those answers, I'm coming up with ideas. And this is what I recommend for clients as well, is just go back to who you're actually trying to help. Stop following and stop searching for others, right? And do this process yourself. Say, okay, what's been some of the most cool transformations that, your clients, your customers have seen? What is, what was one of your biggest realizations in the last year that changed everything? Okay, your dream client, what are some of the biggest questions they're asking at the moment? What are some of the things they're thinking that are actually, as the leader, you, as the one who's the expert, you're like, no, that's so wrong. Like, we need to change this. So rather than going about it from the way of let's scroll, let's find some ideas first, and then let's bring it back to my business, starting with your business, starting with who they're for, and then the ideas come from that. And so it's like, this is the message I want to get out. This is what I want to say. And coming back to what we just said about the good reels and, one good reel or four sort of okay reels, that's how you're going to come up with the really good reels, because it's actually the message you're creating. That's what that's what we're driving with first.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And it has helped. I think it helps us to feel so much more empowered and clear on everything that we're doing. We're like, okay, cool. I know that I want to speak to this, and I know that it's a great message because my clients have been saying this, or I've been seeing this in as a common pattern with ex customers. So yeah, that's amazing. Okay, I had a question come in when I mentioned I was doing a podcast on Reels, and they just wanted to know how can they batch prepare Reels in a, this is their language, do it fast and good enough way.
Yes. Okay, cool. So I think the biggest thing is like what I've really just said.
Mm,
If you want to do it in a way that's like efficient, okay, and this is the good thing, again, coming back to the way I do reels, right, might not be the same way someone else does. And as well, I go through periods where I really enjoy batch creating, where I'm sitting down and creating a multiple at a time, and then there's periods where I'm like, no, I like just making one reel when I want to create it or whatever. So depends wherever you're at, whatever you prefer, whether you're just like one at a time, let's just do one at a time and get it out, or you're like, let's get lots and then I'm done for the month. Okay. So if you are wanting to batch create, do this process that I just said, right? Get really, really clear on where is that dream buyer right now? What are they experiencing? What questions are they asking? What are they thinking? And then go to, okay, where do they want to be? How can I get them there? How does my offer get them there? And sort of going back to these questions is where all these ideas can stem from. And then you've literally got a list of, okay, film this, film this, film this, film this. And the best thing about this, and this is what I say to my clients as well, is none of these ideas that you come from doing this rely on trends. So if you're batch creating and you're only relying on trends, you're going to feel a lot of pressure to post them all this week. Otherwise,
yeah.
they're too late.
Yeah.
So if you're actually starting from the point of who am I helping? How can I help them? What can I share to help them? Then you get to decide later on, or you get to just, like it's not timely in the same sense of if you're driving from what are the latest trends? Let's create these reels.
Yeah. I've totally felt that of like, oh, I've got these great ideas and now they're all irrelevant because I have to wait
Yes.
more than a week.
Yes, it's worse
Yep.
than the drafts. When people leave things in the draft because they're not good enough, when
Yep.
people create reels that are good and then they're like, well, I've
I've
missed the
missed the boat.
time.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
missed it. And so, yeah, so I guess someone could sit down, they could even like brainstorm almost as if they were working with you and you were just asking them all these questions about their client and their audience.
Yes.
Sit down and you could even batch idea yourself like 30 real ideas. And then at
Yes.
some point you can go through and batch film them all. And at some point you can go through and you don't even have to, I guess you don't even have to like fully finish them to some extent. Like you could
Yeah.
always add on the end a little bit. Like if it didn't matter what audio you had and you could find a trending audio, I guess, when you're
Yes.
actually going to share it.
Yep, spot on. I recently booked out a beautiful content studio up in the Sunshine Coast. And so I booked that out for a few hours with a friend. And I just did some talking to camera reels. And so if you're comfortable with that, that's such a good way to batch create. So literally just setting the phone down on a tripod and then just sort of like speaking about a topic, and then you can edit it up later. So,
Mm.
for example, one of the reels I posted the other night, it was one of them that I created. And I literally I had my little microphone, which if you're wanting a good microphone, I've got my little DJI ones and they're brilliant, 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 very crisp and very good. But I sat down with my microphone and I just sort of thought, okay, what are some of the questions that people have been asking? The question I've been asked the most probably in my entire time as a business owner helping people with their socials and Instagram is when's the perfect time to post,
Yeah.
and even people who I would say quote unquote are at a higher level, they're still wanting to know that, like they're still wondering that. And so I was like, right, let's start with this question. And so I literally just started like, when is the perfect time to post, or whatever I started with. And so start like in a structure, start with that. Start with a question that you're perhaps in the DMs, perhaps in a call with a client, perhaps, in conversation, someone's asked you something. Note that down. Start with that. Start it in their words and then film your answer. And then you can do another one. And then you've got the answer. And that, as you said, is absolutely not timely to the trending noise. You can add the noise later. You can add the captions later. You can add whatever later.
Yeah, but you've already done like while you're looking pretty, while you're in a decent location, you've just got the things filmed, and you can feel like,
Yes.
actually, I've got some stuff, rather than feeling like, because sometimes we feel so stuck when you're like, if you're feeling off one week and you're just like, I'm not getting myself dressed up, I can't be bothered with this. And while you don't have to be dressed up to do a reel, like by no means, but if you want to be, then it's good to have some of that stuff just done so you can then put some stuff to it later.
Yes.
And so you mentioned talking head reels.
Yes.
What are you finding any particular reels performing particularly good at the moment for yourself or for your clients?
So I've definitely found a shift. Like, I really, really just do not. I've really educated on views don't equal sales for a while, but
Mm.
I think for a period, if I'm completely honest, there was perhaps a little part of me that had like this, well, you still need to, even though you're getting sales, you still need to get views because this is what you teach, you
Sure.
know? And so in my head, I think there was still that little bit of pressure to like get that. But once I've let go of that, like I've let go of that, and I really now just focus on getting specific to the one person and knowing that this is probably not going to get the views because I'm speaking to one.
Mm.
And I think the biggest thing is that I see is if you're wanting views, if you're wanting virality, then being relatable and being something that people can on a whole relate to. So quite generic. That is a very easy way to get views.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're wanting someone to feel something and be like, this is for me, this speaks to my soul, I need this, that case, that's where you're being very, very specific. It's not going to appeal to everyone, but it is going to appeal to the few who will then convert to the offer. And that's what I found to be the ones that work best, is that I'm focusing on, the one that I can help, and then I end up, getting, more than one sale, but just focusing on one person. And it's actually a lot easier, I find, as well, because trying to please like lots of people and be relatable to lots of people, I'm like,
It's
I think
exhausting.
it's a bit exhausting. And the other thing is that I kind of realized I don't necessarily need to be relatable. I don't need to be liked in a sense in order to be good at what I do and help people. So there's been a big shift personally as the way I show up. I think for a long time, it was like, I want to inspire, I want to connect, I want to be relatable. And I'm like, it got me in a friend zone. It got me in a zone where people are
Mm.
like, you're so amazing, you inspire me, but they weren't necessarily buying. They weren't necessarily working with me. And at the end of the day, if I don't have that, then I'm not going to have my business, and then I'm not going to be able to inspire, make people happy or laugh or whatever it is. So it was
Yeah.
a big realization that I needed to let go of not necessarily being liked, turning people away, and allowing other people to then like dart towards me, because
Yeah.
coming out stronger, people pull away, but people will come full steam ahead as well.
Yeah. No, that's a good, well done for realizing that and for accepting it. Because it can be a hard stage of business to be like, oh, actually, what I do isn't for everyone, and that's okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, business is just such a like a mindset thing, yeah, it's a mind game. You can't just like sit on your laurels and be like, oh, I'm fine, I'm just gonna do the thing. You're like, no, it's
seriously.
heavy
Yeah,
all the time. I
yeah.
have such a superficial question now. How do you have space on your phone to record so much? And then what the heck do you do with it afterwards? Because I've seen you post reels and I'm like, I know for a fact that she didn't take that footage recently. She took that ages ago. How are you storing it and how are you finding it again to use it on a reel?
Oh my God, I can't believe you recognize. Okay, so very good question. Firstly, um, I have, so there was a period where I hired a team, where I was really wanting to go down the route of like a reels agency in a sense, where we had a stack of awesome clients that we were creating reels for. I had my team, and I'd heard really bad stories from other people who had a team, but then expected it to be on their own phone because they didn't want to like. So pretty much, I bought all my team members' phones, all the latest phones. And when I decided to not go down the route of agency and decided, let's just focus on coaching and my programs and things, I all of a sudden had 5 phones. So I I've just sold one on Marketplace, but otherwise I still have 5 phones. So the answer to how do you store everything is because I have 5 phones. So that's not a very, very attainable answer for others. I
Buy 5 more phones. It's
Yeah, I
fine.
know.
Maybe
Just
that's
keep
the
buying
solution.
phones until you've got space. But I hate iCloud. Like I hate iCloud. I use Dropbox for client content and, storing things. But once it's in there, I very rarely touch it again because that whole process of downloading it and waiting for it to. So
Yeah.
what I can say is like, look, I do have the 5 phones and they're almost all full. So I will say that. But what is helpful is, and what I'll actually do is I'll send you a link to this, Jacqui, so that way you can include it because I have a reel on breaking down how I actually file them.
Oh,
But
great.
if
Thank you.
I, no worries. But pretty much I realized a while ago that iPhones now you could actually create albums and you could create folders. So that was a really big game changer because, like, I'd have, say, for example, a folder for Full and Filled, my other business. I'd have a folder for the social impact. And it's like in there, you could have all sorts of stuff. And
Mm.
taking the time to find things in there takes forever.
Hmm.
So being able to have, like, I can't remember which is the main one. I think it's, wait, let's see. I think it is folders inside your album. So
I
I
didn't
would
know you could do
create,
folders
for
inside an album.
example, yeah, so like I would create a album called Full and Filled.
Yeah.
Okay. And then in there, let me actually read what I've got. Or this might be better. I've got a folder called my base folder. Okay. And inside I've got all the little different like subcategories. So I've got office content. I've got any reels that have like a transition option. I have a T and then the type of transition. Um, so, for example, here we've got T, diamond hands. We've got T, hand swish.
Yeah.
So pretty much this is how has been a game changer for finding what I want because having like the big folder for whatever it is, I've got a big folder for my journey. And then in my journey is all the different parts and sections and times and periods. So I might have speaking on stage. I might have behind the scenes at a photo shoot. So I've got these sub little categories, and that makes it a game changer when finding things to use.
Thank you. I can't see the folders, but I'm going to look into that because
Yes.
that sounds like, I mean, I say this as if I've got room on my phone for any videos. I have no room on my phone. But like last time I purchased a phone, I said to myself, this is what I said in my brain. And I think out loud to my husband, I won't get the biggest phone. I don't need that. I'm just going to make sure I keep on emptying my phone because that will make me, otherwise I'm just going to have too much footage stuck on my phone. Past Jacqui was a goose, And although I believe that I would still have filled up the next size phone, like that's
Yes.
not really the issue at this point.
Okay.
But I just don't know. Like with a kid, I've got 1,000 photos of my kids, let
Yes.
alone all the reels I want to do. And maybe I need no, I don't. I don't need a separate phone just for my business for all of my reels.
Look, one of my phones is my niece's phone. Like, so
Yes,
my niece is like so just like everything to me. And
of
so
course.
I have a phone and that's where all her content, like the photos and videos of her on there is there. And because I'm someone who can never like content, cute video, cute photo up, I'm the person who takes everything, videos and photos of her. So I've got a
Yeah.
phone literally that's just of her. And then the biggest thing is like definitely past Jacqui was not kind to you
No.
because I love the abundance of I have so much space on my phone. I can just set my
I can't
phone
even
down.
imagine that feeling at this point. Like,
Yeah.
ugh.
Like there
I
is
just need to
nothing
like,
worse than not having the space.
no, it's ridiculous. Like I've
Yeah.
got, how many photos have we got on here? Let's have a look see. We've got like, I can't even find where I can tell that. Oh, here we go. So there's only 20,000 photos, like 18,000 photos on there. Like it's not that
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah,
And
that's
so
not bad at all. I
it's because,
actually feel like this is a good opportunity if you're listening. I feel like let's have a bit of fun. Like, can you share your story, tag
yeah,
Jacqui and myself, and
how
share
many photos?
how many photos or how many
How many
like
videos?
items you have, photos and videos
Yeah,
on your phone. I'm sitting at this one is sitting at 33,000.
this one.
Yeah, I know. Like if I get the other ones, then
Oh, and like I would definitely have 33,000 if I could. But look, if we're going to be specific, mine's 18,739.
I love
And
it.
I just recently did a cull and I just need to I just need to get them all off my phone, put them on my computer in some sort of folder because I don't
Yes.
need the photos from 10 years ago anymore, But
Yes.
I do need the space for my reels because I'm not recording stuff because I
Yeah.
can't.
Mm. Yes.
Anyway, that's
But
my
definitely
personal
the
problem.
space like that itself most times now I only have one of my phones with me. So usually even like for example sitting down on a podcast or if I'm doing a
Yes.
training, just sit down your phone, record yourself and then cut it up later. And that like the space to do that is
Yep.
being massive and like a very big help for being able to work smarter, not harder. Um,
Yes.
but definitely requires space to do that.
Yeah, it does. Hopefully, hopefully I'm the only person with this problem, and everyone else is like, can't relate. I can do heaps of.
I don't
And if
know.
if that's you, you better be getting out there and recording all this footage for yourself. You know, that's your call to action. Amazing. Okay, thank you for all that advice. That was beautiful. How can we get in touch with you, work with you, see more of what you're up to?
So definitely come say hello on the social impact on Instagram. So I'm the socialimpact.co on Instagram and that's my happy place. So that is you've been warned. I am in a stage or an era. I love the detail Swiss. So let's go with era. I'm in an era where I do share things that do trigger people and I do know that people unfollow. I'm not vicious, but I'm giving you that. I'll give you some tough love every now and again, but you can find me on Instagram, socialimpact.co. And that's where you'll find out everything else, any programs or anything. Like for example, Reels That Bank is my signature Reels program with the framework that we spoke about today.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I so appreciate your time and your insights and your Reels knowledge, and I will hopefully put some of them into practice. So thank you for catching that episode with Alisha and I. If you haven't already, make sure you DM us or DM me or DM Alisha. Maybe do a group message with both of us. That would be the dream. How many photos or like videos and items you have on your phone camera roll right now. See if you can beat Alisha because I don't think you'll be able to, but I'd love to know because yeah, I'm always swimming in full footage of everything. Anyway, thank you for joining us and we'll see you next week for another episode. Bye.